What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that team since 2020, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Kofi Sadat, what is up?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, family? Good to see you here. Same time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. Eastern every week. Always good to see you here. And I want to say what's up to everybody. I am Kofi Sadat, a.k.a. Paul Osbourne. One of many names, but only one game, which is the podcast game. There we go. Also representing the ScarPod studio. Come through, get your ScarPod, your podcasting needs. But beyond that, hey, I'm here as a black man. I'm here as a black fan. I'm part of the family. Just here to learn, strive, share what little wisdom I have with everybody. And happy to be here today. As you see, it's a very kind of sunshiny day in my background.
Yes, so he's raising his background game. So he's got his background game going on. So before we go any further, we welcome everyone to Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. We should be expecting brother Kofi with us momentarily, but we are starting with everything we got. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Push me over 1,620 subscribers. Let's see if we can get that done. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on your show, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And then finally, join the Black Men Talk Discord group. Email me and you can do that. So what's been going on? You said you got the sunshine, but hey, here in Toronto, it's getting a little cold, man.
It's getting cold. It's getting cold, brother. No joke. But it's one of these things that I guess we have to expect it every year. So we got to warm it up tonight. We got to warm it up to keep folks good. All across Canada, across North America, across the world.
Global.
Right. We're here to warm it up tonight with some good conversations. So, get ready for that. I'm good, man. I had a good week. I can't lie. Hail up Frequency as usual.
Yeah, Frequency's here already. He says greetings.
Listen, also, that's my brother. Listen.
There you go. So he's first in to give comments, and also want to shout out brother Shaheen. Gives a thumbs up watching on Facebook. So good to see you, my brother. Good stuff. And Frequency says, great event this past Friday, Kofi Sadat. What event is he talking about?
There you go. So we had the Natural Health and Wellness Fair on Friday, and really just a space for folks who are dealing with natural health from African-centered or Caribbean background. We had like reggae size, Afrocore. We had all types of products and services. We had massages. We had everything. So it was just a space for Black people to get together in particular, and deal with, our health, our wellness, the balance that we often seek in this sometimes crazy world. But yeah, it's good to get together, and seeing people like Frequency, it just elevated my frequency. So I want to give it up to my brother.
There you go.
Listen, I got to give it to my brother. You know why? Because he doesn't just show up online. He shows up in person.
Yeah. I wonder how many kilometers he puts on his mobile in a month.
For real.
And he also says he learned some new dance moves.
This is it.
Okay. Right. All right.
So, and I know he has an event coming up. So definitely, December 9th, he has a networking event. So we'll try to get to that as well and support that. So giving thanks for that and for everybody else that's online. Tell a friend, But I had a good week. What about yourself, Dr. Vibe?
I will be honest with I like to be as much as I can. My week was good until today, and something happened today, and it's still lingering. And I've got so what I did is before we do our show this evening, I came on a little bit early and just eliminated it from my day. It may come back after, but during this time, I'm focused on Black Men Can Talk and our special friend that we have on this evening. So, just if I make a request, I don't ask people, but if you can send some positive energy my way, I would appreciate it. Just putting it out there. If you don't want to, no problem. But if you don't ask, you don't receive, right? So, but yeah, it's all there. But I'm looking forward to it, tonight's conversation. Hey, and if you are here watching it live, please tell us where you're shouting out from, and I'll shout you out. Also, make sure you ask questions and make comments. This is another epic conversation that is coming up for us. So we want to make sure we're only as good as you guys.
Only as good.
We steer the ship, you drive the ship. I'll put it that way. All right. So we're going to take a quick break because I don't want to waste any time with our friend that's coming up this evening. We're going to go in on that. So we'll be back in, let me decide, less than a minute. So we get right back.
Wow. What an awesome discussion and interview with Dr. Vibe. You can see why he's so successful, has so many awards, has so many accolades. Dr. Vibe listens so well to the person he's interviewing, and he loves bringing out their story to share with his audience. My name is Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com, and I just had a great experience sharing with Dr. Vibe and his audience about my journey, and I want to say a big thanks to Dr. Vibe, big thanks to your community, Dr. Vibe, because clearly you love what you do, and you're a shining beacon for us all to focus on entrepreneurship, be better fathers, grow our families, and live and have great businesses. So thank you so much. I can't wait to work with you again. You're an amazing, amazing interviewer and first-class professional. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Ramon Ray. I appreciate the kind words. So let's go to it. So we have another new friend tonight, and myself, I'm both, I will say K2, Kofi squared, because there are two Kofis. That we're all based in Canada, but our conversations are global, because I'm a firm believer that the challenges and opportunities that Black men have are not just based in Canada alone. And I'm sure, Paul, you've traveled enough and spoken with enough Black men in different countries that you say, you know what? I can relate to that.
100%. 100%. Yeah, definitely. So I'm glad we have a global guest tonight.
I know, I like this. Someone send you positive energy, Dr. Vibajoya. Thank you. Receive that. Thank you so much. Thank you. That is good. That is good. Because you know what? That's another thing a number of Black men need to ask. We need to ask. So thank you. Receive. So today I have a gentleman that I've met digitally a few months ago, and we've become good associates. I'm speaking that we're going to get to the journey of friendship and brotherhood along the way. But we have Joseph Corley, a Black licensed therapist, mental wellness consultant, and educator out of St. Louis. And he's going to be sharing with us tonight about the loneliness of Black men. So welcome to the platform for the first time, and hopefully not the last time. Joe Corley, what is up?
What's going on, brothers? Good to see y'all tonight, man. What we doing?
We're doing everything. How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Yeah, things are progressing on this end for sure.
Good. And
let the people know where you're tuning in from, where you're talking from.
I'm located in Dallas, Texas. So the bottom of the map, the Lone Star State. So that's where I'm at.
And not a Dallas Cowboys fan
at all.
There you go.
All right. So before we get into our conversation, can you share a little bit about your journey and background with our family?
Yeah, sure. I was, my first undergrad degree was, I was an accountant, actually. That's where I started out at. And that was very lucrative, but extremely boring and non-fulfilling. And I got an opportunity to become certified as an educator. So I did that and, did that for a couple of decades. I taught middle school kids in a couple of different subjects. And then I recognized that the system would only allow me to take them so far. So I decided to go ahead and advance myself even further and become a therapist, where now I see, teens and adults, mostly adults and couples. But every now and again, I can't get away from my work with the young people. So that's always prominent in my space.
Let me ask, when you were doing your training, how many other Black men were going through the process with you?
I didn't see a one. I didn't see one.
Whoa.
Wow.
Say that again.
I didn't
Not
see
one?
man. I didn't see a single one. It wasn't that many men, period, to be honest. It was mainly all my classes were pretty much, I'd say about 98% female.
Wow.
How
So
did it
that,
make
just
you
to let
feel?
you know, that phenomena is the same up here.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of that, we need more Black men in these spaces to support community. So definitely, even that's a shout out to folks to let them know, again, that's a global reality right there. So go on, Dr. Vibe.
No problem. Let me just, before we get some more, how did it feel when you finished that training?
It was amazing yet emotional. I mean, when I finished, unfortunately, it coincided with the murder of my sister. So I had to basically leave my sister's funeral and go straight to my graduation for that program. So there was a lot of emotions involved with me finishing that program when I did.
Joe, before we go any further, one of the many things I appreciate about you is, I don't use the word transparent because I hear it too much. I like to keep things simple. You are open and you're honest and you're willing to share through yourself to help others. Yeah. So I just want to bless you with that right now, because every time we talk or I see you on a screen, you're always sharing another part of your journey that I don't know. And I appreciate that, and I don't take it for granted. So I just want to bless you for that.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's important, it's part of the journey that I've learned in walking this path is the healing power of vulnerability. So things that I would be uncomfortable talking about before, I'm more open to talk about because, it could give somebody the light that I might have needed when I was in the dark spaces, and let them know that, hey, there is a guide out. There's a way out.
As you mentioned that, that's what I was going to ask about, because again, you're a new friend to me, a new brother to me. And doing the research, I saw that you have a podcast. Vulnerability is sexy. Do you care to expand on that? Because we don't really usually see that as being a sexy thing, especially as Black men, but as Black family. Can you kind of expand on where you're coming from with that idea?
Yeah, it's actually vulnerability is the new sexy. And when I was beating around podcast names, that one's the one that made me the most uncomfortable, right? So I was like, man, and that's why I chose it, because I'm like, man, what are men going to say to me when they see this title? Because usually, without education, without understanding, you associate vulnerability with something else other than masculinity,
Right.
So for me, recognizing and understanding that, the attractiveness of being able to talk about the things that you necessarily don't feel comfortable talking about, and, the healing power of that, and trying to help the next generation. I'm a father of two young men, and I want them to understand that you feel better when you reveal, versus, trying to hide and bottle up. You become a more attractive human when you have less shame about the things that's going on with you. So, and in that regard, being vulnerable does make you sexy, because you're not dealing with shame and embarrassment around the things that you're talking about.
Yeah, love it, love it. I love that. That's a whole shift of the paradigm right there.
Absolutely. Let me ask, as we start getting in the conversation here, what does loneliness look like for Black men, and how does it manifest in their daily lives from your lens?
Well, listen, where does it come from? It comes from the man up culture, as for in general, through lived experience, and then also through the perspective of the clients and the brothers that I talk to on a daily basis. We have learned to man up. So what does that mean? That means don't talk about the things that are bothering you. Don't express emotion. Don't be vulnerable. And what that leads to is deep loneliness, because you can't talk about the things that you need to talk about. You can't express the things that you need to talk about out loud without feeling some type of embarrassed or shame, or being shamed from the outside, because people are uncomfortable with real emotion. And there's the expectation of the Black man not to share or show that type of emotion. So it's a lonely feeling, and that's kind of where it comes from. And not to mention, don't let me get into systematic racism and the alienation that goes on there, where you can't even, if you say anything about that, if I go in here into this space and say, this space is racist, or this is this is oppressive, then what am I? I'm making excuses. I'm playing the so-called race card. I'm an angry Black man. So I don't talk about that either. So all these things, and more that add up to, that I can't talk about, equate to loneliness for a Black man.
Wow. I have a question kind of with this as well, because speaking to other brothers, do you ever see that even though you have a lot of people around you, you can still be lonely?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being alone. I talked about this the other day. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Okay. I can, if I'm alone, I can rectify that rather easily.
Right.
I can just decide or go find people to, hang around or be around, and then I'm not alone anymore. But I can be in a room full of people and feel complete loneliness at all times if I don't feel like no one in the room is a willing listener or understanding of the things that I'm experiencing or the things that I feel, and I don't know how to communicate that, or I don't feel like I'm safe to communicate that. That's lonely, man. That's a lonely feeling. So absolutely.
I like the distinction. That's pretty clear, but that's actually a good distinction.
So can you go a little bit further about how systemic racism and societal discrimination impact the mental health and emotional well-being of Black men?
Yeah, I mean, going deeper into it, we're talking about, like, for instance, in the workplace, you're dealing with stuff like microaggressions, or you're out in society and you have to deal with racial profiling. So I'm in a space where I'm being racially profiled, and it's obvious. And what are my options? I can't lash out. I can't lose my mind, because if I do that, I'm putting my life at risk. Right. So, and I don't always feel maybe comfortable saying it out loud, because I'm not in spaces where I think it's, if I'm not with community or in community with a bunch of brothers like I need to be or should be, then I maybe don't feel comfortable talking about that. So where do we go? And and it just leads to a deep alienation and feeling of inadequacy. So you start to feel, like I said, you start to feel lonely because you're not expressing the things that are bothering you, because you don't feel safe doing so.
Wow.
Paul,
Right, so
Kofi, you can go on. I got more stuff, but I want you to jump in. I know that.
Yeah, I know you do. Sure, for sure. But I mean, I guess maybe taking a proactive look at things around that safety. What does that safety look like, or what could it look like for Black men and the folks around them? Like, what could it actually look like for us? When we talk about safety, right? We know what unsafe is with the racism, but what would be things that would help to promote that safety for ourselves as Black men?
It looks like this. I noticed how both of you brothers took a deep breath after I was done talking about it. It's not because I'm such a impactful speaker, it's because you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about because you've experienced it. It's your own lived experience. So there's safety. The minute you take that deep breath, I take a deep breath. I exhale also, because I know I'm safe, and I know I can talk to you, and you're going to understand what I mean when I'm talking about this discrimination, when I'm talking about this alienation. And unfortunately or fortunately, that might be all we got.
Right. Yeah.
That might be all we got, because we can't change the circumstances. Right? We can't. We have to deal with the reality of the unfairness or the unfairness of our existence. Okay. Well, we can't control that. We're behind enemy lines. What we can't control is our reactions. We can control, how we respond. That's all we have control over. So, before I go out into the world and respond, maybe I'll come into a space and talk to you, brothers, and talk about what I dealt with. And then y'all can hold me accountable to the consequences of me losing my mind when I step out the door and try to respond in a way that's going to get me in trouble or make my life harder than it already is.
Yeah.
So that's what safety looks like.
Okay. A connection. I get it. I get it.
Accountability.
So Joe, do you think loneliness is often misdiagnosed or misunderstood in Black men?
Misunderstood for sure. I don't know about misdiagnosed, but misunderstood for sure, because like I keep saying, one, if it's getting more common for us to have opportunities to talk to one another, but depending on what spaces you're in, you have to actively seek spaces where Black men are saying, we want to talk. Like this Black Men Can Talk. I mean, okay, I see that on the title. I know that's what we're doing here. But would I go into the sports bar, or would I go to my family reunion and start doing those things? Maybe not, because I have not been told or given the indication that this is the space for me to do that. So we're talking about it's misunderstood that, because I'm hanging around a bunch of brothers, I'm hanging out with my friends, or I'm going out to the club or to the bar or whatever, that there's no way that I could possibly be lonely. But it could be a group of us, and every single one of us could be feeling lonely because we're not talking about anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not my experience, because obviously people see once they hear I'm a therapist, I could be going to the cleaners.
Give me some free advice.
I'm just going to pick up my shirts, and I mention, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a therapist. Next thing I know about your daughter's in rehab and all these things, So it's not my experience anymore, but it was my experience growing up.
Yeah. I mean, part of it too is it's like, depending on, I guess how you kind of think about things, but I look at it on a spiritual level, like that's your calling, that's your energy. I mean, being a therapist, obviously it's your occupation, and, you studied well, but I'm sure before this, that maybe on your journey of life, people would come to you with things, right? Because the spirit kind of calls them. It seems like it's a welcoming kind of piece. Even now we're having this conversation, right? That it's open, that we can ask the questions, we can connect. So, sometimes it's part of it, man. That's it. That may be our calling to give space to folks to, open up and talk. And you said there might be other spaces where it's unsafe, for other people it's unsafe. So, but I guess the challenge, if you're just trying to live life, sometimes it could be hard. But yeah, I feel you on that.
No, 100%. Okay, because in one of my therapy sessions with my therapist, as I'm getting deep into my profession, I say, man, who do we go to? Like it's like no one listens to us. And he took a deep breath and he said, this is a very good question, and I want you to understand that we are the listeners. Okay, so I have been tasked with this purpose. So there might not be anyone that I know that's able to listen the way that I listen, because this is what I do. This is what I've been tasked to do. It's my purpose. So sometimes that in itself can feel lonely, But for the reasons that you just gave, I get it.
I'm gonna give you a Caribbean gem, because this is a cross-cultural show. We say in Jamaica, shoemaker never have good shoe, which means that the shoemaker never has a good shoe because he's always giving everybody else the good shoe.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So as Black men, who do this work in community, we got to be mindful that, we need to have good shoes so we can stand firm. Right. So definitely. And even with the event that I did with the Natural Health and Wellness this Friday, I was speaking to one of the presenters, and she was saying that, what she admired about the event, that it was a space for healers to be healed by other healers, right? Which is so important when it comes down to it, right? So I just wanted to kind of check in around that. I'll kick it back to you, Dr. Vibe, because I know you got a million questions, my brother.
But hey, I'm sure you do as the conversation goes forward. Just want to say good evening to FitNet's IQ Cam, and Joe. There's a someone that you know digitally that we met the last time you were on. Guess who it is?
So Nikki, I see Nikki over
Hey,
So just to share with everyone, I've had Joe on one of my platforms, the Dr. Vibe Show before, and Nikki G was all in asking incredible questions. So I told her that we're going to have you on again tonight. So she said she was going to put it down in her calendar. So she is here. So she has her first conversation piece. Who or what has created the feeling that you cannot be open about your feelings or issues? Women do not have this issue as much as men. So I'd like your take on what caused this issue, race aside. And she also adds on to clarify who or what gave you the feeling that you cannot open up as men in general, not you personally.
Yeah. Well, my take on it is this, Nikki, you can't put race aside. As much as I would like to do that for you, I don't think you can, because we're talking about things that are generational, right? For instance, we're talking about a period of time where, being vulnerable again was risking your life. All right. And then we had to go like through the 80s when the crack epidemic hit and Black fathers are being taken out of the home. Now, the mothers are saying, hey, toughen up, boy. It's tough out there. So now, the ones if we have fathers, because of what they experience in their everyday lives, they're telling you to toughen up. The mothers are telling you that it's hard out there for you as a man, so you got to toughen up. And it becomes generational where you don't have the opportunity to be vulnerable because you're looked at something less than tough. And that's survival. So that's not me placing blame. I mean, I wasn't in that generation, but I can observe it and see it as for what it is. So, I mean, you can't put race aside. You just can't. It's part of everything.
Good stuff. I know she'll probably have some follow-up comments. Let's see if I can get one in before she follows up. I'd like to know from your lens, how does Black culture influence the way Black men process and cope with loneliness?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about the eras, how things started to change, even let's just say in entertainment and music. The portrayal of hypermasculinity in media and what it's supposed to look like as a Black man. I mean, those are the observations that you have, and what it takes to be popular or to be successful, what it looks like in the media and what it looks like in our culture in a way, but also those that know and understand what it is to be vulnerable and what it is to talk and to have those conversations, though they're influenced by culture as well. So it has positive and negative effects. It just depends on, your lived experience, honestly.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Paula? I'm ready to. I'm
just really, even as you mentioned, of course, as you said about the culture, right? And it's probably easier said than done. But how do we begin to shift that culture for this new generation of Black boys and Black men, right? Because, like you said, there was it's coming from an era where toughen up, get with it. Even myself, I would say that, as a father, I parent differently than my father, who came from the era of just suck it up. You know what I mean? So how do we strategize around shifting the culture of the new generation of young Black men coming up and potentially Black fathers?
I mean, it's having conversations like this. We have to popularize, like I said, I was very intentional about naming my podcast "Vulnerability is the New Sexy." I'm a mentor. I'm a teacher. I was a basketball coach at one point, so I understand that I have young people in my life that look up to me and are influenced by me. And even as a therapist now, I still do. A lot of times people, young people, especially young Black men, young Black boys, they want to come into the space and see someone that looks like them in order for them to feel comfortable. And, I know that me being a Black male enhances my ability to break down those walls and get to what I need to get to. So how do we do it? I mean, it's just example, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Many examples is and you might have to put a small ripple in the lake that becomes a wave, you know, deeper into the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you just got to be intentional about how you're showing up in your corner of the world, you know, which I understand you do that already. I know Dr. Vibe does it as well, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Stuff. Nikki G is back. Men in general have a higher suicide rate, all races, and have this notion that they need to, quote, man up, unquote, as per society. Who told men they need to man up? And it's feminine or weak to be emotional.
It's just historical, nigga. I know that's that's not the deep supreme answer that you might be looking for, but it's just historical. I mean, that's just it's before my time, before your time. Generations and generations of men, either influenced by the church or influenced by the military, or influenced by industrial revolution, influenced by slavery. You know what I mean? Like that. It's generational. Now, some of those stigmas are being broken down, and a lot more men are finding their way into the spaces. But like I said, it's been passed down, and now, even now, before it was mainly just the men, right? And the women were begging for men to be more vulnerable and to be more open. Now you can find a faction of women who look at that as weak, and they don't want their men to be vulnerable. They want their men to be tougher. Now, that's not all women. It's not all men.
Yeah.
But it's a contributor, Nikki. It's a contributor.
I just want to add you another conversation piece onto that. And with you live in the United States and just recently an election. And how do you feel the current or the presiding or upcoming political climate is going to have on the impact of loneliness in Black men?
Listen, I mentioned to you guys that I was just on a call before I got on this one. It's a group of Black men that meets every Sunday, and it's a safe space for Black men to be vulnerable and have conversations about these type of things. And this came up. This exact question you just asked came up, and brothers was already feeling it. Just the conversation about it. I'm observing, about 10 brothers on the screen. And as we're talking about it, I can see the anxiety in their bodies. I can see the tightness in their bodies because of a little bit of the anxiety and the fear they have about how this upcoming administration is going to affect their daily lives. Listen, racist people are more emboldened right now. And if you have it's scary outside, whether we should be scared or not, that's up for debate. But it's scary outside for some people because the wrong kind of people are emboldened right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's to answer your question directly, it's going to have a huge effect on that loneliness.
I wanted to talk about that comment from Nikki G around the high levels of the suicide. We have an elder, Louis March, that just transitioned this year. And a lot of the work that he did was around what he calls zero gun violence. So being able to have zero gun violence in our neighborhood or in particular neighborhoods, because some neighborhoods have it and some don't. With that being said, I remember having a conversation with him around young Black men who are feeling lonely and isolated, and that are involved in what we'd say gang involved or risky behavior that is almost like suicidal, right? So they'll walk into that neighborhood that they have a beef with. They'll walk in there and antagonize people because it's almost like, I'm feeling like nobody I can talk to, and I don't care. And it's almost almost a way of suicide. There's a word for it. Do you guys experience that same phenomena, or have you experienced that same phenomena from young Black men that really are at a place where they don't really care? They're involved in risky behaviors that may lead to that outcome that might be death, injuries,
And from my experience, I can't give you like the for sure statistical numbers on that, but I can tell you through my lived experience and the clients and patients that I've seen, yes, we have experienced that. What's difficult sometimes to get a young person to care, about the behaviors they're putting out, and how endangering they are to themselves by simply doing this or simply doing that. My experience has been as a teacher and as a therapist that they're tuning out. So, I mean, you really have to be extremely talented in order to tune them back in. You can't just be doing regular stuff in the classroom and in the therapy space and expecting the kind of turnaround that's going to be necessary for these young people to engage in their own lives and recognize, how they're affecting their future selves. So, no, from my experience, yes, is the answer to your question.
Okay. I want to ask the role of intergenerational trauma and how it plays an impact on loneliness expressed by Black men.
Yeah. I mean, so we're passing that down, right? I mean, generational to generation, we're passing it down where, the things that we've experienced, a lot of times we don't want to talk about, ask questions or be vulnerable. We want to impress our lived experience onto the next generation. So we tell them, don't do this or do this because it's something that you wish you would have done, or you have regrets about situations that you've been through. And it's not necessarily incorporating the fact that we're in a different time. You grew up in a different time. Your father grew up in a different time. Your grandfather grew up in a different time. So yes, there is a certain level of wisdom that comes with that we need to pass down, but there also needs to be an openness to, the new experiences out here for the young people, because if you don't do that, then all you're doing is passing down trauma because of your inability or unwillingness to go seek healing. We really don't give enough credit to how much impact our unhealed trauma has on the future generations, and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Nice. SC says the youth will burn down the village to feel its warmth. African proverb. Enough said.
So business.
Enough
Shout
said.
out to my sister.
Absolutely.
Essie, my right sister.
Yeah, Essie is on good stuff. So what role does fatherhood play in the experience of loneliness for Black men? You had mentioned a little bit about fatherhood, your role as a father, but how does the absence or presence of a father in their own lives affect the emotional being of Black fathers and how they raise their children?
Yeah, first, presence, right? So I have two sons who have been present for their entire lives. However, unfortunately, I didn't have that, So how did that show for me? I had to work through, my own issues with attachments and relationships. But it took me a long time. I was already well into, fatherhood before I did that. So some of the things I just warned against with your last question, I was already doing. I was impressing upon my kids and my sons through my own lived experience. And I wasn't necessarily open always to listening to, what they had been through. And I expect them to appreciate me just because I'm here. Right. And that's not fair, all because I didn't have that father. So I'm thinking that just my presence, I should get extra credit, right? Because I'm here.
Yeah.
And I was walking around with that. But I have noticed, and there's a clip of my son talking about it through my healing journey. Said I have observed the way my father parents me change because I'm looking at him now through healing eyes, and we're able to have conversations that we weren't able to have before because I didn't even know where to start. I didn't know what things to say or how to listen. All I knew was, how to tell him he was wrong or tell either one of them they were wrong and not be open to it. So as a father, I can't stress enough how imperative it is to seek healing. I just cannot.
Nice.
Even on that note, as you mentioned that, I was just thinking, you're a licensed therapist, and what challenges do you see with Black men who are experiencing loneliness? What challenges do you see in terms of them seeking counseling? Like what kind of challenges do you see, and are there any solutions that you could put forward? For us who have maybe brothers in our life that may need that, but they're not there. There's a stigma against going to counseling.
Yeah, and you said it. I mean, you answered the question with that last couple of words you just said. The stigma is the biggest challenge. That mistrust of going into a space and being worried about somebody, telling you business. You know what I mean? Like I have to trust this person with my most intimate, details. And hey, listen, we're talking about abuse. We're talking about, that's physical, sexual. You want to walk into a space as a grown man and talk about how you were sexually abused to a stranger. But also knowing that if I don't talk about this, I'm never going to heal from it. Those are the type of hurdles that we have. I can't tell you. It's one of my favorite things in the world, Brother Paul, is to when a man is kind of looking off or looking down, and my ability to read the situation gets right to the heart of whatever they're dealing with, and boom, they look right at me, make that eye contact. That's one of my favorite moments, and I've seen it so many times because, and most of the men that come into the therapy room, they come through their women, right? Their women dragged them into space.
Wow.
Either they come in as couples, or the women make it a boundary. Like if you don't get healing, then we're gonna be out, and they're resistant, and so when they come in and then they find that they can talk and they get a little bit of taste of that, then it's to the moon. It's to the moon.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope, man. It's good work you're doing, brother.
I appreciate it, bro.
Okay, the questions are starting to fly in, but of course, Nikki G is the front of the line. She goes, do you think patriarchy mindset would be the trigger of this issue? I believe women have this idea that men need to be strong and not show emotion due to the narrative painted in society about men.
Nikki, yes. Patriarchal. Sorry, I can't say it now. But the mindset plays it's huge, right? Because all the narratives that get formed around like expectations for Black men, I mean, that's what we're facing, right? You have to appear unemotional in order to be attractive. Because what does it show? It shows the strong silent type is the one that's going to get it done. That's the one you feel safe with, not the guy, sitting in the corner blabbering about his feelings. But in reality, that dude needs to talk too. That strong, silent dude, he is hurting. I don't care what's going on. It's very rare. And don't get me wrong, there are some brothers that are completely emotionally sound. And I applaud them brothers, but I can say on majority that most of the brothers need somewhere to go. Okay. And the expectations of hypermasculinity, like I said, that man up culture is really preventing a lot of people from going into the space because they don't want to appear weak. And that just reduces the chances that they're going to go and to see someone like me and express their emotions. So yeah, it plays a huge role.
What role does the community play in this? Like, yeah, especially in regards to reducing the loneliness of Black men. What role does community play?
It's the only way out, in my opinion. And it's just my opinion. I don't know everything, but in my opinion, community is the only way that we are going to overcome this stigma. There has to be more, and they're coming. More conversations like this. But we all came here knowing knowing the things that we know already. It's getting brothers in the space, inviting a brother in the space that necessarily is not used to situations like this. That's where community is going to be effective in making change. We have to, like I said, keep being an example, keep inviting, keep trying to break down the stigmas, talk about it out loud. I told you, in naming my podcast, I was uncomfortable. That was something I had to actually overcome.
Yeah.
I sat on that for like weeks before I decided to come out and say vulnerability is a new sexy. Because I was looking at a couple of brothers that I know and who know me were actually making fun of me in my face. You know what I mean? So, I have to name it this. I have to name it.
There you go.
Because I got to do what I got to do. We all have a role. Basically, to answer your question, we all have a role. Brothers that's in the space talking, we got to talk louder, and we got to invite more into this community. Is everything.
Okay.
Because it has the same effect negatively, right? I mean, it has the same negative effect, but I mean, if we can meet that negative effect with positivity and doing the right kind of talking, then we can make a change. I've seen that up close and personal.
There you go.
Paul, you want to add?
I'm just seeing a comment from my sister Lisa. I want to hail her up. So maybe Dr. Vibe gets a comment.
I want to say that because that's probably like an ending comment.
All right.
But I got some more things that I want to share with. So, what role do how can mental health professionals better serve Black men that are experiencing loneliness?
Well, I think that for me, if a Black man comes into my space and he's experiencing the loneliness, being prepared for that is the best thing I can be. I know it because I feel it. As a Black man, I feel it. So validating his feelings immediately, that's the best thing I can do. And I'm not validating it because I want him to pay his fee. It's because I really know and experience that loneliness. So I can look a brother in his eye with genuine, with authenticity and tell him, I get it, bro.
All right. So even on that note, right? And we talked about it at the top. There are obviously not enough Black men, therapists, social workers. You're in the minority, I'm sure. And over here, it's the same phenomena. So for someone who can't access a Black man such as yourself, what advice would you be giving to therapists who are seeing our Black men? Right? Like your connection obviously is more than just, on the outside, you've lived that life, right? You have lived experience. So let's say it's they want to go to a Black person, they want to go to a Black woman. What advice would you have for a Black woman therapist who are seeing young Black men?
Yeah, I think it's a skill to the Black women therapist. I would advise them, first of all, to commune with Black male therapists, and I would advise Black male therapists to commune with Black female therapists, right? Because we need to understand. I have Black women that come to me, and I honestly talk to a lot of Black women in order to prepare myself for those moments. So, and if any therapist at all that's worth anything is always going to be willing to disarm their bias, right? And if you're not willing to do that, if you see a therapist that's not willing to do that, run for the hills. Run for the hills. They're not going for you, period. So it's all about community. We need each other. I need Black women.
Right.
Mm.
I like that. I like that.
How can we encourage Black men to seek therapy or mental health support when they feel lonely?
Accountability, man. Like, see, so the behaviors that come out of that loneliness is what you have to attack, right? So if you see a brother that is behaving in a way that you can see directly as a result of that loneliness, which meaning was probably going to look like for a lot of us, uncontrollable anger, or unnecessary anger. That's a brother that's hurting. When you see the brother that's at the gym, playing ball, and a call don't go his way and he start flipping out, that or he's at work and something don't go his way and he start flipping out, that brother's hurting, right? So that's when you sit down and just put the mirror in his face and say, listen, man, I see you, and I'm gonna ask you this: is this honestly how you want to show up? Is this, because that's the main core of what I do. I don't go in here and try to tell you as a man how I want you to behave. I'm listening to you tell me how you want to show up. So any decisions or behavior that goes against the way that you say you want to be, that's where I come and I call that out. Here's the mirror. You told me that you didn't like it when you yelled at your wife. You told me that you didn't like it when you got angry with your kids or when you lost your temper at work. Okay? So if that's how you want to show up, then let's talk about it. Because all I'm doing is putting a mirror in your face. I'm not here to put you through Joe Corley's school of manhood.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a good point, right? Like to hold up that mirror and just reflect on what is being said, as opposed to, like, this is how I think you should go. So that's a very insightful way to approach that conversation.
Listen, everything that I know about you comes from you. That's it. That's the trick of it all. Like, I'm just listening. I'm just listening, and I'm asking probing questions. I find out, how you grew up. What is your relationship with your parents? What did you observe from your parents? All these things. What are your relationship with your siblings? And then you tell me. So, okay. So I look at that situation and say, so you watched your mother be abused by your father for the majority of your life.
Yeah.
And you didn't like that. But you yell at your wife.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's when you get
Yeah. And sometimes we don't make those connections, right? So it's good that you're able to facilitate that conversation, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Got some. Seems that, of course, Black women are piling in now with comments. So here we go. So first off, Nikki G says vulnerability is in fact the new sexy. Us women who are emotionally intelligent see it and respect it. Good on you for spreading the awareness of vulnerability in Black men. Someone who's a regular from Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala on Saturday nights at 7 p.m., which I host and co-produce. Says hello. And there's also Cinema Canela says this is a very important issue. Never thought about that. Of course, Dr. Tachi, who's the driving force behind Indie Soup Media, says hello. Cinema Canela says all good. Nikki G says, I think this issue is quite common, but undiagnosed. She also says accountability. Yes. What is your take on diagnosed narcissism in some Black men? Nick Cannon was just diagnosed with narcissistic personality. I think you discussed that. Did you discuss that in that other platform disorder and came out about it, which I respect?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, first of all, sometimes we overuse it, right? But for him to actually be, clinically diagnosed with it and then talk about it, that's a big thing. Now, like I said, I don't know if every man who has, narcissistic tendencies is actually a narcissist. Sometimes it's just unhealed trauma. And, you know, he just hasn't dealt with it, and his perspective on life may just make him look and appear extremely selfish. And then sometimes they are narcissists, you know what I mean? But, you know, when you say what's my take on it, I guess, I don't know. You'd have to be more specific in that question for me, Nikki, for me to answer that.
I'm sure she will be if you give her the opportunity. So I'll wait for her addition on that. I want to ask you also, how can Black men be encouraged to start conversations about loneliness with their peers?
Yeah, man, that's a tough one, man, because you can't curate the spaces around you all the time. You know, people are who they are times, and so I guess the best thing you can do is keep your expectation where it should be when you are openly communicating about the things that are bothering you. I always start with a very simple, you know, script. When this happens, I feel this. Now, when I say I feel this, those are feeling words that you need to incorporate in your daily speak. Discouraged, disappointed, sad, happy, frustrated, whatever the feeling is, tie a feeling to it, because people can't tell you you're wrong about your feelings. You know, if I feel sad, you can't tell me I'm wrong about that. That's what I feel. When this happens, I feel this. I need this. That way, if I'm coming to you, Dr. Vibe, and say, Dr. Vibe, not even saying you, when this happens, I feel this way. This is what I need from you. Dr. Vibe now has the choice to decide whether or not he has the capacity to give me what I need in that space, or he might set the boundary and say, I hear you, but I don't have it right now. I don't have it for you right now. And I have to then understand that it's his right to take care of himself in that moment, because he doesn't have the space or capacity to deal with what I need. And that's the conversation that we have. Everybody's understanding, instead of like, oh man, Dr. Vibe, you ain't my friend. How you not gonna show up for me when I need you? Meanwhile, he dealing with all kinds of, like he just said today, he had a rough day. He might not be in a space to deal with my stuff.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, even as I look on the screen here, I'm thinking, what role does like technology, a lot of these online conversations play in loneliness for Black men? So, you know, pre-pandemic or BC, before COVID, there are more times to actually connect. So how have you seen this impact the phenomena of loneliness?
Comparison is the devil, man. Comparison is the devil. What are you looking at? You're comparing yourself to everything on that screen, and you're feeling bad about yourself. So-and-so got a new car. So-and-so's taking trips. So-and-so, you know, got a new house. Man, how come I ain't got a new house? How come I ain't taking trips? You know, you know, it's just the devil, man.
Wow.
So how does it affect that loneliness? You start again, because you're not doing these things. You start feeling for some reason, a lot of us, it goes straight to our masculinity. You know, like I wasn't man enough to do the things I needed to do in order to live the kind of lifestyle that I'm watching online.
Right.
So I must be a failure.
Wow. Yeah, that's a deep thought, you know. I never thought about it that way before, because again, yeah, people curate whatever reality or fantasy they want online, you know what I mean?
Right.
And more people are watching it. So yeah.
They might be in Brazil, but they might be miserable in Brazil. You know what I mean?
Or they may not even be in Brazil. It might be some AI thing.
Or you don't know what they had to go through to get to a space in order to
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody's journey is.
What role does mentorship play in helping Black men avoid or cope with loneliness, in your opinion?
Man, mentorship is everything. I think we had a show on the Fly Me podcast. We talked about talking to our younger selves, and that's the thing that I mentioned. You know, I don't like to live with regrets, and I don't even like to say should have done anything, because should is not allowed in my therapy room. But That being said, the one thing that I will communicate with my younger self is find a mentor immediately, and hang on to that, because the value of mentorship, and I can't even quantify it. Honestly, it's important, and especially when we're talking about emotional wellness. If you have think about it, if you have a healthy, emotionally healthy mentor who is understanding of what it takes and the value of vulnerability, and they can pass that on to you, that is incredibly invaluable for a young person to go into their 20s, go into their 30s, with a healthy mindset.
Mhm.
That's your prime.
Yeah. So here's the hard part sometimes, and sometimes it's rightfully so. Sometimes it's coming from a place of unhealed trauma, as you mentioned. But obviously we have a lot of single parent homes, and most of those single parent homes are headed by our sisters, right? Some of
Mhm.
them are resistant to having Black male mentors. How do we navigate those conversations? To encourage them about the positives of having that.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to when I talk to women about that type of stuff, especially the ones who don't have the male leader in the home, and they're doing it on their own. I try to encourage them, like, listen, you, as great as you are, the best you can ever be is just a really good mother.
Mm,
You cannot be a father.
right.
You cannot influence. You cannot, because listen, if I'm, if you're asking me to try two juices or compare two juices, right? And
Yeah.
uh, brother Kofi, you give me one, and then Dr. Vibe sets his on the table, and I never drink it.
Yeah.
How am I going to compare?
Mm,
I never, but I just sat and watched everybody else drink Dr. Vibe's juice and how they reacted to it, and I said, "Oh, well, that must be what it's like, to drink that juice." You can't. I never had it, so it was like
yeah.
I can't influence. I can do what I can to talk to a young lady about what it's like to grow up as a young lady, but
Hmm.
there's only so much I can say because I've never taken that journey. Just the
Right.
same for a mother who's never taken a journey of as a young man. You've never done that, so
Good
um,
point.
that's the conversation that I try. That's the analogy that I try to have ready for those type of conversations.
Patience. Okay. Thank you for
All
that.
right. BM says it's hard for some of us just to maintain friendships, let alone starting up all these difficult discussions. We are divided out here based on quote where you are from, unquote. It's hard to connect at all. And also says mentorship is huge for those who can find it. Great point. And of course, our resident questioner, Nikki G, says, right now we have a shortage of Black men signing up as mentors for big brothers, big sisters here in Toronto. Hosted a conversation about that last week. Why do you think Black men are not showing up enough for their own youth in the community? Woo.
Man,
Can I jump in that one because I
Oh,
understand what you're
okay.
talking about.
Give
I gotta
a
jump into
break.
that.
Give a
I
break
gotta. I have to
to
jump into
Joe.
that
Give a
one,
break
right?
to Joe. Go ahead.
So we talked about systems, and we talked about the importance of race, right? We had mentioned that earlier. We can't have these conversations without really talking about what's going on. So all due respect, because I'm in community, I do this work. All respect to big brothers and sisters, but where they miss the point is they're not culturally aligned, right? So many of us, for example, they're coming to us uh, looking for Black men to be a mentor and whatnot, and the need is there, right? But if there's no cultural alignment and cultural connection, and it's not, it's like if I'm looking for a glass of water because that's what I need for my healing, and you give me a can of pop, that's not what that's not what I came here for. So they'll continue to struggle, these mainstream institutions, right, until there's that shift, until they actually put people in places and spaces where we know how it needs to look, right? So I think that struggle, I wouldn't equate that with the fact that there's a lack of mentors when it comes to Black men, because there's so many other spaces and places where Black men are mentoring, children in community. But I don't think that avenue, or that institution really is representative of Black men's, lack of mentorship in community. So that's my take on it. But anyone else can answer that.
I just say, through my lived experience, again, as someone who's been an educator, been a coach, I actually have had a owned and operated and ran a nonprofit for youth, and it's extremely thankless, and I think that sometimes that might prevent a lot of brothers from signing up. It's a risk, and again, you're talking about Black men who carry, a lot of Black men carry a certain level of shame. And with that shame, sometimes is a barrier to putting themselves in a position to like be someone else's mentor. Am I good enough to do this? Do I deserve this platform to be showing a young man how to move and shake when I don't even feel that great about myself half the time? You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. I think that prevents a lot of Black men from signing up for stuff like that.
So Nikki G has a follow-up comment saying, why are Black females showing up then?
Because they're better. They're better at these type of things. Like, that's just the nature of what we've observed over time. You know what I mean? Like, Black women show up. It's just what happens. As sad as that is, for me, as a Black man who shows up consistently, that's actually hurts for me to say out of my mouth sometimes. But if I'm just, looking, they just show up, Nikki. I don't know.
Halo for our sisters.
Kofi, you want to add anything to that? Kofi, you want to add anything to that? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this conversation, as we look at the comments, who's showing up, right? But I think again, it is similar to what Joe was saying around, do we feel worthy to be mentors? Have we been made to feel worthy, right? And for the most part, through society, racism and all those pieces, we don't feel worthy. We've not been put in those positions, and we haven't really taken care of our stuff. Our emotional intelligence. We're just really coming into that now. Our own unpressed trauma, as Black men and boys, we're still dealing with that. So I think it's almost like we're not even, for the most part, in that place to say that we want to share. But I think, to be honest, it's actually more of a mistake for us not to show that vulnerability, which is the new sexy, but that vulnerability that we need to share to our boys, and our girls and our communities, to say, you know what, sometimes I don't have the answers. Sometimes I'm not good. Sometimes I'm working through that, because that actually helps more than anything else. Because if someone else is struggling with a similar thing, and they think that you have it all together, or they have to speak to someone who has it all together, sometimes you want to see, that, one of my favorite shows that used to come on the internet was Failure Lab, right? And Failure Lab was all about your failure and how you worked through that. So I think that's sometimes the challenge is that as Black men, yeah, I agree. We don't feel like we're worthy. I don't know if you ever speak to your parents, Doctor. I don't say your parents, Dr. Vibe, but a lot of times with our parents, they're like, I have nothing to teach you. I don't know nothing. And they know
my dad's at that point now. It says
that's my point.
But I'm saying, no, Dad, you got lots more to give. Don't think you.
And they were actually made to feel that way. They were made to feel that way. Like your culture's backwards. So and so. So that, not to go on a
stuck.
Okay. So we've talked about organizations. What can schools and workplaces do to address the loneliness of Black men?
Before I answer that, let me just say one more thing to Nikki. I feel like as someone who has, worked with both young men and young women, also young women are more malleable. Um, they're more open and susceptible to change than young boys for whatever reason. And I think that women, from my observation, are much more comfortable mentoring to young girls than the opposite. What can schools do? Listen, I've been on record as saying throw the whole thing away, right? So I mean, the whole system is not designed for what we're talking about right here. So there's no special pill or change that they can make that's all of a sudden going to make them ready to be able to do what we needed them to do. We don't have the talent in the schools. The system is not designed uh, for us to succeed. It's only designed for us to be able to, walk in lines and follow rules. I mean, that's the main purpose of the school system. It's not for anybody to dream or to be a whole or healthy human. It's not designed for that. So, what the school system we need to do was completely go away and start over. Unfortunately, I know people don't want to hear that, but that's just it's not designed to do it.
Mm-hmm. Is there any room for our allies and advocates to help us with this situation, Black men and their struggles with loneliness?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I just don't feel like it's. I feel like we gotta heal. We gotta heal our brothers, and then hopefully, other than be validating, educate yourselves, and that's about all you can do. But they got to be led. We got to be led. You got to be led. You got to see what you can be. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You got to see it to be it.
If you could make one systemic or cultural change to reduce the loneliness of Black men, what would that be?
Systemic or cultural change. Well, the first thing I would do is what I just told you. I destroy the school system and rebuild it. Okay. And I think like starting like all the systems, you know, you know, are not designed to do what they need to do. So we'd have to build a community, honestly, that looks like us, is for us, by us, that can show what it's like to be a healthy whole Black man and be in a healthy whole Black community. And if your goal is to be in a family, what does it look like to be inside of a whole and healthy Black family? um it has to be a community from the ground up. You know what I mean? Now that's a large reaching goal. That's out there. But since you asked the question,
That's something we need to work on. That's something we
Yeah.
need to work
BM says, I agree. This issue is ours to fix ourselves.
yeah. That's what
Joe, do you have any success stories or examples of Black men overcoming loneliness and building meaningful connections?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, one to start with my own. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, like I went through a journey, and it probably started in 2018, where I was having struggles. I was in my late 30s, and I looked up. I don't have any Black male friends. Honestly, I don't have any because I've never felt comfortable. My father wasn't present. My stepfather, he wasn't a good man to follow. And my mother, as great as she was, she passed away when I was 15 years old. So, but what does that do to me? Here's my girl, my first love. I have built this idea of what that is, and I lost it. abruptly. So my whole mindset is about trying to find and reconnect again, but not to a man because I've never done that. Right. But through my healing journey, I was able to understand, even when I started looking for a therapist, I knew, hey, I knew enough to know I needed help.
Yeah.
But all my parameters were Black woman. I didn't want to talk to no man. Right. So it wasn't until I was forced into a situation where I could talk to a man that I saw the value in that. And then I started to understand how important it was to be in spaces with other Black men and talk about the things that only we could talk about. Hey, that's it. I mean, I don't. Again, I know there might not be some sisters want to hear, but the reality is there's some things that we can only talk to other men about. It's just what it is, because it's not that y'all don't that women aren't open and willing. It's just that you might lack a little bit of the understanding on certain things, and it makes it difficult for us to connect on everything. As tough as that is.
Yeah, but I think it's real. I mean, again, there's a lived reality and a lived connection. And sometimes, the name of the show is Black Men Can Talk. And part of that has to do with the fact that we often hear the comment, Black men don't talk. So extending on what you said, sometimes it's the unsaid that we understand amongst each other. Like that,
Right.
that look like you're talking about when, a brother's looking for that help, but he's not sure or secure, and then you connect, right? Sometimes it's just that unsaid moment, energy, conversation that helps with the opening, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. And that's just the beginning. I mean, I've had all types of brothers in relationships that I've seen being able to open up and find their way to a healthier connection with their partners. I'm not talking about just hetero men either. I mean, I've had couples and men who are homosexual. I mean, but they're all Black men, right? And they all grew up in the same patriarchal system, and have the same struggles, regardless of what the situation is. And I've seen it time and time again, where just diving into that and recognizing for what it is, and giving the permission to say, yeah, I experienced that, and yes, it wasn't really healthy or normal. Just that power.
Right.
Then you can go into whatever space you need to go into and build connection with somebody else, another human. So I've seen it time and time again, to answer your question, Dr. Mott, over and over again.
Nice. Nikki G says, I believe men, all races, need to stand up against patriarchy because much of these issues are caused from it. How do we get more men to see this issue and support more women in power?
Yeah. First of all, you're right, Nikki, that more men do need to stand up against that, because it is weakening, as evidence, just by our last political election. Whoever you support is irrelevant to me, but I was more in tune with the reasoning behind the lack of support for certain candidates, right? And that was what Nikki's addressing here. And that type of thinking, it only weakens us. How do we get more men to see this? It's really difficult to get a grown person to do something they don't want to do, Nikki, unfortunately. And that's just going to cause you more stress. So honestly and truthfully, the only thing you can honestly do is, do your own thing. I know, again, no, you don't want to hear that, but as a therapist, I can tell you, trying to get grown people to do things that they don't want to do will only lead to stress for you. Period.
All right. As we start winding it down, Lisa says, how can Black wives, mothers, sisters support our Black men without coming across as patronizing or overbearing, or in contrast, coddling?
Oh, this is a great question. Keep it up there.
I will.
First, let's talk about the accountability part. That's where the coddling comes from. Like, as a wife or a mother or a sister, you have the right to talk about how you feel at all times. Okay. So if somebody is showing up in your life in a way that is disruptive to your peace, first thing you have to do is acknowledge that out loud. When this happens and when you show up this way, I feel this way. This is what I need. Period. Okay. Now, as far as, coming across supportive, it's all about probing questions and removing the blame, the criticism, the contempt from your voice. What do you need from that man? And how are you going to communicate that that's what you need from him? Something as simple as the dishes are dirty or the kitchen is clean, and he's struggling or stressed and hasn't been able to get to it. You coming into the space and saying, "Damn, dishes are always dirty. You just a sloppy blah da 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 da," as opposed to saying, "I'm really tired today, and I noticed that the dishes aren't clean. I really needed them to be clean." And he says, "Why?" If he starts reacting a certain way where he gets elevated and starts getting mad, that's when you say, that's when we can talk. Okay. I don't appreciate that you're talking to me that way. If something's bothering you, you know what I mean? We can talk about it, but you yelling at me is not productive. This all sounds crazy, right? So when I introduce this stuff in couple session, it always sounds crazy to them at first, but after repetitive practicing and coaching, they're able to have these conversations where it becomes probing questions as opposed to being critical and showing contempt for your partner. Don't take away the you. Take away the you. You do you. Take that out of your vocabulary and start asking questions and talking about the way you feel. No good man wants to hear that this woman is feeling bad about stuff.
There we go. Good stuff. I got two more quick things and then we'll let you go. So if a Black man feels lonely and is watching this conversation, what is the first step you would recommend he take today?
Start looking for a therapist or a group or a processing group, and that's it. Talk, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then my final piece, unless Kofi has something, what's one message of hope or encouragement you'd like to share with Black men who feel alone right now?
I want you brothers to understand that, there is hope in community, right? I've been where you've been. I understand what loneliness is. I felt that loneliness and did not see a light until I did see a light. So I know that there's a path out. And I know that I believe in the power of healing because I've seen it, not only for myself, but for many others. But it starts with the vulnerability to have those conversations, right? You cannot heal what you don't reveal. Whatever's hurting you, whatever's bothering you, whatever you're hiding away, get into a space like this and talk about it, man. Talk about it so you can let it go and learn how to move on. The way that you're getting angry, the way that you're feeling sad, it's probably something so deep seated that you haven't thought about it for years. It probably happened to you when you was younger than 10 years old, and you don't even know because you've never really talked about it. It's not about such and such gets me mad when they do this. It's more about, why does that bother me so much to the point where I get that escalated?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you think you're mad about, bro, is not what you're actually mad about. And that's what that's what I'm encouraging you to do. You can go get help. You can go have conversations and you can get that monkey off your back once and for all. It is very, very possible. Just start. Just start. And don't stop until you find somebody that works for you. If the first person you talk to don't make you feel good, here's what you need to understand. You need help. Okay? You need help. So if the first person don't work, go to the next person, go to the next. There is somebody out there that is suited for what you need. You just got to be consistent and diligent about finding them.
I think that's a good end to this epic conversation. Kofi, Kofi, you want to add anything?
Listen, I'm just gonna say you hit it out the park like another Joe we know, Joe from the Blue Jays, right? So
Joe
you hit it out the park, my brother. So giving thanks for that. You know, again, it's the first time that we're connecting, we're meeting, and I'm honored that you came to this space and, you know, blessed with so much gems. You know, so I'm giving thanks for that, and yeah, I'll personally take things away, and I hope others are taking things away that we can build on. But yeah, giving thanks, man, for showing up in this space the way you did.
Thank you.
No, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. So if you want to catch more of Joe, website, Real You, the letter U, not YOU, consulting.com, Instagram at jcorley80, email jcorley@realuconsulting.com, and the podcast, Vulnerability is the New Sexy. I think we have some more comments just coming in quick. Nikki just says, great convo. Thank you. Oh, we passed. Woo! Okay. And then BM says, great conversation. I will check that podcast. Please do. Please do, and provide him feedback. My brother, thank you so much. I know you had another conversation earlier on today, and thanks for giving the most precious thing that you have, your time for all our family. As always, you know that you can always reach out to me if there's anything I can potentially help you with. And as a brother, I always say, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace.
I appreciate you, brother.
Looking forward to hearing from you, and invite me to some of these conversations you have on Sunday. I need them too.
Oh, it's an open invitation, man. I'll get you the info.
Please do, and all best to your family too.
Oh, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. All brothers is welcome, by the way. This is an open discuss. This is called the doc. I'll get the information. I'll share it.
Yeah, and I'll share it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All black men from all over the world are tuning in for this 1 hour and 15 minutes to talk about various topics.
All right.
Peace,
my brother. Keep the faith. All right.
Stay up.
This is beautiful. Any last things you want to share?
Another one.
Kofi, anything?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. I mean, if we were feeling lonely before this conversation, we're not feeling that much lonely. We gained a new friend. Definitely, you know, it's a phenomena that is happening in our community, and I think, you know, this was a great way to address some of these issues. But yeah, let's build on this. You know, I appreciate you as another black man. I'll say that. You know, yeah, and let's do what Joe said, man. Let's build community. You know, and build on community and build on community until, you know, we definitely are able to get to a better place as a community, not just black men, black women, black family, you know, black world, whatever it is. Let's just keep building on community. And I'm glad that's my gem I'm taking away. You know, community is critical in terms of, you know, just really getting together and countering this epidemic of loneliness.
And Cinnamon Canela says, wow, mind-opening. Very good. I'm glad you appreciated it. Let's see. Let's do some things, just house chores. So as always, advertise your business, product, or service on any of these on this platform. Email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, but share this conversation out. Share it out. People need to know, right? Black Men Can Talk Discord group. Email me again, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And the contact information, Kofi Sadat. There it is. Email nazaoazjam@gmail.com. Instagram, Maroon. So, and it's also in the comments section on most of the platforms you're watching this live on the replay. Kofi Morris couldn't make tonight, but he's at getwellstayfit@gmail.com. Instagram at Kofi Coach _ and at Cosmic Wellness Group. At me, website, the drvibeshow.com, YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at The Dr. Vibe Show. That's THEDRVIBESHOW. X/Twitter, which is slowly going away because I'm going the blue sky thing. At DRVIBESHOW, and email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And you can watch replays of this great conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website, the drvibeshow.com, and also Paul's Facebook page. So there you go, all the different places. So as we shut it down,
Dr. Vibe, because I got a question earlier. When is this episode going to be live? I mean, I'm going to be up on the channel.
So here's the straight goods. On the Facebook page, right after it's finished, and the YouTube page, it's there. But what I do is I also do an edited version a few days after. But the replay, once this is finished, you can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, etc. I add a few edits later on in the week, so you can go watch it as soon as we click off. It's good to go. All
right, all good. I'll let people know.
Yeah, and next week we're going to be scheduled to talk with King Turbo about
Slingshot
Dance Hall
Daddy. Slingshot Andrew. Can't wait.
You want to give a little sneak preview of what that's all about?
Sure. For those who don't know, who need to know, King Turbo is one of the original sound systems, original DJs of Scarborough, especially in the reggae dancehall world. I know these guys have been doing it for over 30 years. Good Lord, right? But more importantly, we want to look at the phenomena that how music influences culture, the message behind the music, and specifically dancehall music. We're going to be talking to Andrew, who's going to, let us know his journey as, a Black man coming up here in Toronto, as well as traveling around the world. King Turbo has been around the world and back. So we want to hear about that journey. So please tune in to that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fast moving. It's going to be energetic. So we want to see you guys tune in again next week. Same time, 8 p.m., same channel at the Dr. Vibe Show, whether Facebook or YouTube, or you can tune into Paul Osbourne, my Facebook Live. But yeah, please tune in. It's going to be a good one. All right. So I'm looking forward to that.
Share it out, everybody. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourselves grace, and we will see you next week or in between. God bless, peace, well, keep the faith, and walk good.